All right, let's see. Okay, the microphone is working. Test 1, 2. So, all right. So one of the things that I'll tell you, for those of you fellow people in the Northern Hemisphere, it is super impactful this time of year, feeling the shift into winter, and the temperature change, the dryness in the air, and then also the shortened photo period. And we're just about to hit daylight savings time when it becomes dark at 4. So, I mean, I guess one of the things I want to just point out, the fact that I feel the effect on me in terms of like the sense of compression, and um, and just noticing that. And, one of the things that's, like, kind of alluded to, certainly in chapter 3, that, kind of echoes into the end of the book here, is that, our connection with the natural world, and also in chapter 4, actually, with the first hub, is that our connection with the natural world is something that we, in a lot of ways try to separate ourselves from, and that it's like the more that we can like lean in, to like really accepting that it's like these types of cycles are we're like part of them. It's not affected by them. Like we are like definitely drafted into them, and feel them, and just kind of feel them. But okay, so that's where I'm at right now. It's like, so if look, I like one thing that's probably worth mentioning is that in my own life, one of the things that uh I have a sort of minor brand in is this evangelism about the things to do in the winter in New England to make it tenable, like what manageable. So the biggest one, actually, I'll save the best for last. So vitamin D, October 15th, start taking your vitamin D. It's key. And my big vitamin D story, I'll just give when I used to meditate, have a like very like committed meditation practice. I practice yoga when I was in my Ashtanga yoga cult days. We practiced for, 2, potentially 3 hours, ate like the cleanest air quotes diet of, that's like even imaginable. Um, and I'd feel depressive, and of course, at the time, there are all these memes that were like, "Doctors should prescribe yoga," and I was like, "How much more do you have to do?" So, I went to the doctor, and I remember I'd said, "Well, can you just give me antidepressants, just stat, because this is awful?" And they did, and to their credit, they did a, blood panel, and they found that I had a vitamin D deficiency, and so within a couple really, like, pretty quickly, in a few days of taking it, that had helped me. Not to say that helps everyone, but I'm just saying it's like a point of note, is the impact of a vitamin D deficiency can lead to, feeling like shit. So there's that. The other thing is light. So I have I should take it out. I should kind of, especially with daylight savings time coming up, is like on Amazon, you can go on and get like a seasonal affect disorder light and just blast it. Like it's like 10 minutes a day that can like support you. Now the biggest one, last but not least, is humidity. So because it's invisible and it's not typically measured, like there's the sense of like temperature and like that, it's like it's getting colder. But one of the things is that the relative humidity in the air drops, and that creates like headaches, dry skin, dry sinuses, dry eyes, and it's just tiring. So my big thing is get a humidifier and get a humidity meter, which is like about $5 on it, like wherever you can get it from. So, and increase the humidity in the air. It changes everything. Okay, that's like a lot for whatever. That's it's really wild. Like I will tell you that it's wild that in, professional environments where I'm, a leader and an executive, I will actually do this exact thing that I just did, is I will give my evangelism about humidity. And people often ask me to advise them on the selection of humidifiers, and honestly, I don't have I've bought really expensive ones, not worth it. It's really more about, like, the tank and the fact that you're gonna have to replace it every few years anyway, every couple of years. So don't go too crazy. Yeah, and you don't want to refill the tank all the time. So, whatever. Okay, I'm done, I promise. Okay, so today we are talking about inquiry, questions, and answers. We're on page 253 as we continue our march, as we read cover to cover the Parinama method. There you go. And the series, for anyone who doesn't realize, is like this is meant to be a companion to a reader. It is a really large book, which folks find overwhelming pretty much universally so far. And this is meant to just support. So if you're reading, and so unfortunately, if you're reading this and you were like, I want to have some more context on this, you just had to listen to 5 minutes about humidity and temperature. So who knows? Like, yeah, it's like, wow, you pay. It's free, but it ain't cheap, baby. It's cheap. It ain't free. I don't know, one of those something. Okay, here we go. So we're gonna get into this. I'm gonna start reading, and we'll just see what comes up. I haven't read ahead per usual. So, our inclination to expand our intellectual capacity will be more developed if our parents and early teachers respected and honored our questions and answered them with genuine engagement. Gaining knowledge from asking questions is an entirely different process than gaining knowledge through having it told to us, regardless of our level of interest. So, one thing to point out here is that as a kid, one of the when we in previous hubs, we really talk about the value of someone who listens to you and is delighted in the emergence of you, like the emergence of you and how you see the world and the things you notice, and even wants to hear about the things that you're working on, and working through and considering. And so that these are people that are lifelines. Sometimes they're grandparents, so for some people it's parents. It can be friends of the family, it can be, blah blah blah. But just calling back to that quality of like, who was the person that thought, a teacher said, wow, that's really interesting. And like and instead and versus someone who is kind of like stressed and pressed and is like, like, look, that's like, the dumb question thing, or you're hurried, or, a big one is made to feel stupid because it's a question that you don't know how to answer. So it's like minimizing the question or trying to just do something to, instead of saying like, yeah, that's a good question, I don't know the answer to that. Um, is saying like, what? Right? Because the thing is, we're not talking about the actual questions, we're talking about the actual function of asking questions, and that feature of feeling empowered and fearless in inquiry, in and of itself. And, going back to, Da Vinci and Einstein saying like, why is the sky blue, right? So it's like this thing where it's like you just ask the questions and that they can arise, and that mechanism is, like that's, that has like a good amount of capacity. There's a lot of functions. There's a lot of things that, um, a lot of sort of shaping, adapting faculty, like functions in our society and social and home life, that make curiosity like annoying or embarrassing or whatever, adapt it to like shrink it. So what we're doing is here is like in the seventh habit, it's really important to be able to expand that capacity to be, unapologetically curious, because there's really there's just really important things that are on the other side of that. Really important aspects of what's available and possible for you. And so a lot of the thing of like, I just don't know. And it's like being stuck in answers and not being attentive enough to the process of having to be able to ask the question and be receptive to an answer. It's just being like, I don't have the answers. I don't know. I don't know. And it's like, yeah, like the I don't know is like an output of like this kind of notion of questions being annoying or stupid, or like, why don't you know the answer right away, versus even like having security around not knowing. So a big thing about inquiry is like really like, how comfortable are you not knowing something? Like, is like how much confidence, how much just to be able to say, yeah, I don't know that. I don't know, but I'm interested. Or it's like, it's nothing I've thought about and honestly not super interested, but cool question. Like, right on. Go, if you come up with anything you think I'd find interesting, tell me. Bring it forward, please. That kind of thing. But it is like inquiry is really like the dichotomy of needing to have answers, not knowing, like this thing of like, I don't know. Like it's really like, instead of I don't know, it's like, I wonder why. I wonder what the answer is. Like, so instead of, it's like, what's the alternative to I don't know? It's like it's kind of like, that's a great question. And, I'll tell you something, as a person who, I had a career in sales, selling things. One of the things that was like a really like sort of seemingly unrelated to this, was learning about when people had questions that I didn't know the answers for, is to say like, I don't know, or to cut them off, or to show like, um, to even imply that, like, the way they're thinking about this isn't great. Like, that's just not really an effective way to lead, like a sales process. And a big thing was, also to go in, with confidence into meetings and situations, and be able to say, like, "That's a great question." One of my things used to be like, I'd say, "That's a great question. I'm surprised nobody's asked that before. Let me find out for you, because I'm interested too." But yeah, inquiry, there's a nuance here that's really important to pay attention to, that is tied to adaptations. And one thing in terms of interruptions and stressors is, not that if this is too hard to think about, don't do it, or, or like find a space where you have kind of the bandwidth to take this on. But just think about, who are the people that made you feel like your questions weren't interesting, right? And, and it's just evaluate that. Just go, "Yep, tired person, frustrated person." It's nothing to do with the questions. They were just training me without knowing. They were training me to just not want to be a problem. Because questions, like even inquiry, has this kind of voluminousness that like has the same quality of emotion, as that it's like big and inconvenient and sort of lush and kind of extraordinary. So it's not like directly functional even. Like it has this kind of, kind of this quality to it. Okay, so our questions guide the quality of the answers we receive. Throughout our lives, the type of responses and answers we get are shaped by the questions we ask, how we ask them, and our level of authentic curiosity. Curiosity can be activated by letting yourself attend to your naturally arising questions, the things you pay attention to because they interest you. Be patient. This impulse may be shy and may hide because it's afraid of being shamed. Right? If you've internalized the shaming voices of others, your curiosity will need you to be kind. Telling yourself that you ask dumb questions and that you want to, and what you want to know is stupid or embarrassing will send your innate curiosity into hiding, where it will wait until it's safe to come out, a time that may never come unless conscious inquiry and compassion are fostered and encouraged. So, curiosity looks to uncover and examine the intersections of self knowledge and knowledge of the world, and we benefit from having a running start. Those who came before us left us wisdom in the written word. Their life's work gained yardage in the advancement of human consciousness, and so gives us the chance to pick up the ball and run with it. Any advancement we produce becomes a new frontier, a jumping off point for those who will come after us. Yeah, I mean, that was a really important thing for me in writing this book. And one thing, it's kind of a common pointing out is that this book is extraordinarily expansive in the subject matter that it covers. And none of this would be possible without the work of thousands and thousands of folks who contemplated and asked questions and did the work to kind of, ask the questions, receive the answer, and then go through a process of refinement in terms of like applying some, diligence and active thinking around it. So yeah, yeah. And it's pretty amazing, I will say that, like how, in terms of even like the notion of inquiry it's interesting. There's kind of this like fractalness of it where it's like your inquiry, knowing that there is like that the part of how the answers can come to you is that they have been explored by others and that you'll find them, that they'll arrive if you kind of sort of ask. So I don't know, it's kind of wild. So many of us were taught that intelligent people know all the answers or that smart people think like computers. This is an interrupting notion that can distance folks from their own intelligence. Your intellect is expressed in your ability to ask questions and to listen with openness and discernment. Intelligence is a field of curiosity, inquiry, wonder, and awe. And the byproduct of this is insight, knowledge, and wisdom. So, critical thinking is the act of holding and inspecting an idea that you disagree with while intending to understand it. See chapters 6 and 9. Knowing that your values are not at risk of contamination. See chapter 3. When questioning has a so-called gotcha agenda, that is, intending to prove somebody wrong by using their words against them, it's not inquiry. It's battling to convert or overtake another's position. You're not running for mayor, trying to collect votes, nor are you trying to sell something to someone who doesn't want to buy. If you need to defend yourself rather than explain yourself, don't waste the time. If you find yourself engaging in this behavior, trying to convert someone to your worldview, instead try to see how deeply you can understand the other person's perspective. Studies have shown that people are more willing to change their minds when we show that we're open to doing the same. And there is there it is. So yeah, I mean, I think that, let's see, like the practical application of this would be like whatever feels like the frontier of mystery in your life, right? Whatever is the thing that you just can't make sense of. to remove any sense that you already know or you should know or anything shaming, anything in that, like that. Instead to just kind of look at it like, even if you do know an answer, like a answer to your question, it's like, how do you tie a shoe, as an example? It's like you can tie a shoe, like a bunch of different ways, and to be like, yeah, I know how to do it. I'm not doing it. And it's like, well, it's like part of what happens as Parinama is like in this methodology, as it begins to start to expand holistically in an integrated way with all like the interrelated facets, it's this knowing that there's this like very particular way related to you that you find. So because there's a way someone else does something that is like really efficient for them or really works, like the fact that it doesn't work for you is like the fact that it's like it doesn't work for you, and that there are other ways, other paths, and other ways to find the activating, connected, like truly you way to do something. So the practical with this is to find what is the question. And it's not the despair, like why don't I know how to do this? It's like, how do you do this? How do you do it? Like, how do you? What is the next move here with this fill in the blank? How do I serve? How do I best offer my life as an act of service? How do I best offer my life as an act of service? And to stay in that field of curiosity. The idea it's like, well, I asked and I didn't get an answer. And it's like, well, if you're out of practice, this quality is going to need to be coaxed forward, as mentioned. And once it builds trust, it comes fast. But it can wake you up in the middle of the night. 3 a.m, 2 a.m, you wake up and you go, oh, there it is. Have the journal next to your bed. Write it down. But to ask the question, ask before you go to bed. Ask when you're in the shower. But in earnest, like really connect to an earnest willingness to learn and know without trying to control. It's this thing. I know it's this thing, but tell me, like, it's really the more open to be like, what is there to know here? What is there to know here? And to be willing to like be pointed in directions that are outside of one's comfort zone. There's that. So anyhow, all right, that's a wrap for me right now. Thank you for watching. Any comments I'll respond to. Again, if you have anything that you don't want to put in a public comment, you can direct message me in the Parinama Method Instagram DMs. But thank you. Yeah, any interaction. We're now, I think, close to like 300 of these videos found in the lives on the Parinama Method YouTube channel. Getting closer and closer to like completing the book. It's a while. Got another month or two, I think. But yeah, we're starting to ramp into a lot. Like 11 is all practical. It's like there's still some framing and stuff, but it's practical. So anyway, I'm sending you lots of love and talk to you next time. All right, bye.